Welcome to Module 1. I want you to imagine walking into your manager's office for what you think is a routine check-in. Instead, you find HR sitting there with a stack of papers, your expense reports. Your manager slides the papers across the desk and says, "We need to talk." This exact scenario plays out in offices across the country every single day, and most of the time, the employee sitting in that chair has no idea what they did wrong. Let me tell you about 3 people, 3 different mistakes, 3 very different outcomes. First, there's Mike. Mike was a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. 6 months into his job, he took his first business trip to a conference in Austin. Mike loves craft beer. Austin has great craft beer, so after each day of the conference, he'd grab a dinner and a couple of local brews. Nothing crazy, maybe 40, 50 bucks a night, including food. When Mike submitted his expense report, his manager called him over and asked, "Mike, I see that you've got some alcohol charges here. Our policy is really strict about that unless it's client entertainment." Mike was embarrassed, but understanding he paid back the alcohol portion, about $60 total, and thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Later, at Mike's annual review, his manager wrote, "While Mike shows promise in his core responsibilities, there are concerns about his professional judgment and attention to company policies." Mike didn't get the promotion he was expecting, and 2 years later, he's still in the same role. Now, let's talk about Jennifer. Jennifer was an account manager at a consulting firm. She was smart, hardworking, and her clients loved her. But Jennifer made one crucial mistake on her very first expense report. She was traveling from Chicago to Dallas for a client meeting. Her flight got delayed, so she missed her original dinner plans and ended up eating at the airport. Twice. Once during the delay, and once when she finally got to Dallas late that night. 2 meals, same day, both legitimate, but Jennifer's company had a policy: 1 meal reimbursement per meal period. Jennifer didn't know this, so she submitted both meals. Total difference, $14. Her manager flagged it as a potential violation. HR got involved. They looked at her other expense reports, all 3 of them, with a microscope, and they found 2 other minor issues: a breakfast she'd expensed on travel day before her flight departed, and a taxi receipt where she accidentally claimed the tip twice. Jennifer got fired, not for $14, not even for the pattern of small mistakes. She got fired because, in HR's words, she demonstrated a concerning disregard for company policies and attention to detail. The total amount in question, $37.50. And there's David. David was also new, also made mistakes. On his first business trip, David accidentally booked a hotel room that was $50 over the company's daily limit. He realized it when he got to the hotel, but it was a conference weekend, nothing else was available. Here's what David did differently. He called his manager before he even checked in. "Hey, I messed up the booking, the room's over budget, and there's nothing else available. How do you want me to handle this?" His manager said, "Don't worry about it. These things happen. Just try to keep the other expenses low to balance it out." David documented that conversation in an email, and when he submitted his expense report, he included a note explaining the situation and referencing his manager's approval. 6 months later, David got promoted. Same company as Jennifer, same type of mistake, completely different outcome. So what's the difference? Why did Mike's career stall, Jennifer get fired, and David got promoted? It wasn't about the money. Companies spend more on coffee in the break room than these expense discrepancies cost. It was about something more valuable: trust. And here's what I've learned after 25 years of watching these scenarios play out. Expense reports are never really about expenses. They're about character assessment. Think about it from your manager's perspective. You're new. They don't really know you yet. They can't follow you around all day to see how you make decisions, but they can look at your expense reports. When your manager reviews your expenses, they're asking themselves questions like, does this person pay attention to details? Do they respect company resources? Will they cut corners when no one's watching? Can I trust them with bigger responsibilities? And how will they represent our company to clients? Jennifer's manager didn't fire her because of $37. He fired her because he looked at those expense reports and thought, "Hey, if she's this careless with small things, how can I trust her with $1 million client account?" David's manager promoted him because he looked at that hotel situation and thought, "This guy made a mistake, but he handled it like a professional. He communicated proactively, took responsibility, and documented everything." That's the kind of judgment I want on my team. This is why expense reports matter so much in your first year. They're often the only quantifiable way your manager has to assess your judgment, integrity, and attention to detail. And here's the really important part. The standards are different for new employees. When a senior executive makes an expense mistake, people assume it was an oversight. When a new hire makes the same mistake, people assume it's a character flaw. Fair? Not really, but is it the reality? Absolutely. A recent survey found that expense reports from employees with less than 2 years of experience get rejected at 3 times the rate of reports from senior staff. Same policies, same types of expenses, different levels of scrutiny. This isn't necessarily conscious bias, though sometimes it is. It's risk management. Companies invest a lot in the training of new employees. They want to identify potential problems early, before they become bigger issues. But here's the good news. Once you understand this dynamic, you can use it to your advantage. Remember David? His proactive communication didn't just solve a problem, it demonstrated exactly the kind of professional judgment his manager was looking for. That hotel booking mistake actually helped his career because of how he handled it. When you handle expense reports professionally, you're signaling attention to detail, respect for company resources, proactive communication, personal accountability, and professional judgment. These are exactly the qualities that get people promoted. So let's talk about the psychology of the people reviewing your expense reports, because this is crucial. Your expense reports don't just go to your manager, they go through finance, accounting, sometimes procurement. These are people whose job it is to find problems, to ask questions, to protect the company's money. And they've seen it all. The person who tried to expense a family vacation by claiming it was a team building retreat, the guy who submitted the same restaurant receipt 3 times hoping no one would notice, or the woman who expensed her wedding flowers as office decorations. So when they see a pattern, even a pattern of innocent mistakes, their alarm bells go off. They start looking closer. They start asking questions. And once you're on their radar for the wrong reasons, every expense report gets extra scrutiny forever. Let me show you a real expense report that got someone fired. I've changed the names and some details, but this is real. Look at this one. Day 1, breakfast before flight departure. Red flag number 1, most policies don't cover meals before the travel begins. Day 2, minibar charges including alcohol. Red flag number 2. Day 3, dinner for one person, $67 in Toledo, Ohio. Red flag number 3, that's way over reasonable limits for that location. And day 4, 2 Uber rides within 30 minutes. Red flags number 4 and 5 suggest personal use mixed with business. Now, any one of these might have gotten a pass. All of them together, the employee was terminated within a week of submitting this report. The really tragic part, I talked to this person afterwards, and every single charge had an innocent explanation. The breakfast was because of an early flight, and the minibar was because he didn't know better. The expensive dinner was at the only restaurant near his hotel, and the 2 Ubers were because he forgot something at the office. But he never explained any of this. He just submitted the receipts and assumed someone would figure it out. This is really the reality you're stepping into. I'm not trying to scare you, maybe a little bit, but I want you to understand the stakes. The good news is now you know, and knowing changes everything. So here's what we've learned in this module. First, expense reports are character assessments disguised as financial documents. Second, new employees face higher scrutiny and different standards. And third, it's not about the money, it's about trust, judgment, and professional reputation. Fourth, proactive communication can turn mistakes into career opportunities. And fifth, people reviewing your expense reports are paid to find problems, so don't give them any reason. In Module 2, we're going to get practical. We'll walk through the booking process step by step, and I'll show you exactly how to make decisions that build trust instead of destroying it. Because now that you understand why this matters, it's time to learn how to get it right. See you in Module 2.